Welcome to the Discourse Analyzer AI Toolkit, where articles come alive. You're listening to the audio version of our article. For the full text and an interactive experience, check out the link in the description below. Interact with any selection using our AI assistant to enhance your understanding. Let's explore.
Methodologies in Global Studies Discourse Analysis. In the field of global studies, discourse analysis encompasses various methodologies that illuminate how language and communication shape and are shaped by global dynamics. This essay explores 5 key methodologies: critical discourse analysis, CDA, in a global context, corpus linguistics for global narratives, narrative analysis of transnational discourses, conversation analysis in cross-border dialogues, and the ethnography of communication for global discourse communities. Each methodology provides unique insights into the ways language constructs and reflects global issues, identities, and power relations. 1. Critical discourse analysis, CDA, in global context. Critical discourse analysis, CDA, is a methodology within global studies that examines the ways discourse shapes, and is shaped by, power relations within society. It is particularly valuable in a global context for uncovering how language contributes to the construction and perpetuation of global power dynamics, ideologies, and inequalities. Here's an exploration of CDA's principles, methods, and its application in analyzing global discourses. Principles of critical discourse analysis, CDA. CDA is rooted in the belief that language is a social practice that both reflects and constructs social realities. Several core principles guide this approach. Power and ideology. CDA focuses on how discourse enacts, reproduces, and challenges power relations and ideologies. It seeks to reveal the ways in which language perpetuates the dominance of certain groups over others. Historical context. CDA emphasizes the importance of historical and social context in understanding discourse. It recognizes that texts and language practices are influenced by and influence the socio-political and economic conditions in which they are produced. Critique and change. CDA aims to be emancipatory, using analysis to expose power imbalances and ideologies in order to foster social change. It is explicitly critical, seeking not only to understand but also to challenge and transform societal structures. Methods of CDA. CDA employs a variety of methods to analyze texts and discourses. Some common techniques include textual analysis, examining the language, structure, and rhetoric of texts to identify how they convey meaning and construct social realities. This includes analyzing vocabulary, grammar, metaphors, and narratives. Contextual analysis, situating texts within their broader social, political, and historical contexts to understand how they are shaped by and shape these contexts. This involves looking at the production, distribution, and reception of texts. Interdiscursive analysis, exploring the relationships between different discourses and how they interact to reinforce or challenge dominant ideologies. This involves identifying how texts draw on and contribute to various discursive formations. Multimodal analysis, analyzing not just written or spoken texts but also visual and digital media, recognizing that images, videos, and other modes of communication are integral to contemporary discourse. CDA in the global context. Applying CDA to global studies involves examining how global discourses are constructed and how they influence and reflect global power dynamics. Here are some areas where CDA can be particularly insightful. Media and global news. CDA can analyze how global news media frame international events and issues, revealing biases and power structures. For example, examining how Western media cover conflicts in the Middle East can uncover Orientalist perspectives and the perpetuation of stereotypes about the region. Political discourse. CDA is useful for analyzing speeches, policy documents, and international treaties to understand how political leaders and institutions construct global issues. For instance, analyzing the language used in climate change negotiations can reveal how different countries frame responsibility and action, often reflecting their geopolitical interests. Development and aid discourse. CDA can uncover the ideological underpinnings of development and aid discourse. For example, Examining how international organizations discuss poverty and development can reveal neoliberal assumptions that prioritize market-based solutions and individual responsibility over structural changes. Corporate and economic discourse. Analyzing the language used by multinational corporations and international economic institutions can reveal how they construct narratives about globalization, trade, and economic policies. This can expose how these narratives promote certain economic ideologies and practices that benefit powerful economic actors. Case studies in CDA. Case study. The Discourse of Terrorism Media Analysis. CDA can analyze how different media outlets frame acts of terrorism, often using language that emphasizes fear and security threats, which can justify state surveillance and military interventions. This analysis might reveal how terms like terrorist and freedom fighter are used selectively, depending on geopolitical interests. Political rhetoric. Examining political speeches can show how leaders construct the discourse of terrorism to rally support for policies. For example, post-9/11 speeches in the United States framed the war on terror in a way that legitimized extensive military actions and reshaped international relations. Case study. Migration and refugee discourse policy documents. CDA can analyze how government policies on migration and refugees are framed. This might reveal how language is used to construct migrants as economic burdens or security threats, influencing public perception and policy decisions. Media representation. Analyzing media coverage of refugee crises can show how refugees are portrayed either as victims deserving of sympathy or as invaders posing a threat. These portrayals can affect public opinion and policy responses. Critical discourse analysis, CDA, is a powerful methodology for examining the role of language in shaping global power dynamics and ideologies. By analyzing texts and discourses within their broader social and historical contexts, CDA reveals how language contributes to the construction and perpetuation of global inequalities and power structures. In the global context, CDA can uncover biases in media representation, political rhetoric, development discourse, and more, providing valuable insights for fostering critical awareness and social change. 2. Corpus Linguistics for Global Narratives. Corpus Linguistics is a powerful methodology within Global Studies Discourse Analysis for examining large collections of texts, corpora, to uncover patterns, trends, and structures in language use. When applied to global narratives, corpus linguistics provides a systematic and quantitative approach to analyzing how language constructs and reflects global issues, ideologies, and power dynamics. Understanding corpus linguistics. Corpus linguistics involves the use of computer-assisted techniques to analyze extensive collections of naturally occurring texts. This methodology relies on software tools to identify frequencies, collocations, concordances, and other linguistic features within a corpus. Key concepts in corpus linguistics. Corpus. A large, structured set of texts stored electronically and used for linguistic analysis. Frequency analysis. Counting the occurrences of words or phrases within a corpus to identify common themes or topics. Collocation analysis. Examining how words co-occur within a corpus to understand their typical contexts and associations. Concordance analysis. Displaying the occurrences of a word or phrase along with its surrounding context to explore its usage and meaning. Keyword analysis. Identifying words that appear significantly more frequently in one corpus compared to another, highlighting distinctive themes or topics. Applying corpus linguistics to global narratives. Corpus linguistics can be applied to various types of texts to analyze global narratives, including media articles, political speeches, policy documents, and social media posts. Here are some ways this methodology can be utilized. Media analysis. Frequency and themes. Analyzing the frequency of specific terms related to global issues, e.g., climate change, refugee crisis, can reveal which topics are most prominently covered in the media. This helps identify the salience of different global issues over time. Collocation patterns. Investigating collocations can show how certain terms are typically framed. For example, analyzing the collocates of immigrant might reveal whether immigrants are frequently associated with words like legal, economic, or security. Political discourse. Keyword analysis. Comparing speeches from different political leaders or countries can highlight the distinctive themes and priorities in their discourse. For example, analyzing keywords in speeches at the United Nations can reveal how different countries frame issues like human rights or international security. Concordance lines. Examining concordance lines of key terms, e.g., democracy, terrorism, can uncover how these concepts are discussed and contextualized in political rhetoric, revealing underlying ideologies and power dynamics. Policy documents. Trend analysis. Analyzing a corpus of policy documents over time can identify shifts in language and focus. For instance, tracking the frequency of terms like sustainability or globalization can reveal changing priorities in international policy. Intertextual connections. Corpus analysis can uncover how different policy documents reference and build upon each other, highlighting intertextual connections and the evolution of global policy discourse. Social media. Public sentiment. Analyzing social media corpora can provide insights into public sentiment and discourse on global issues. Frequency and sentiment analysis of tweets or posts about topics like pandemic response or climate action can reveal public attitudes and concerns. Hashtag analysis. Investigating the use and collocation of hashtags can show how global movements and conversations are organized and propagated on social media platforms. Case studies in Corpus Linguistics. Case study: Climate Change Discourse Media Analysis. By creating a corpus of news articles on climate change from various international sources, researchers can use frequency and collocation analysis to identify dominant themes and narratives. This might reveal a focus on scientific evidence in some regions, while others emphasize economic impacts or political debates. Political speeches. Analyzing a corpus of speeches from international climate conferences can uncover how different countries frame their positions and responsibilities regarding climate action. Keyword analysis might show which nations emphasize innovation versus mitigation or adaptation. Case study: Refugee and Migration Discourse Policy Documents. A corpus of migration policy documents from different countries can be analyzed to track changes in language and policy focus over time. Collocation analysis can reveal how terms like integration, border security, and human rights are used in policy discussions. Social media. By analyzing tweets with hashtags like #RefugeeCrisis or #migration, researchers can examine public discourse and sentiment. Frequency and sentiment analysis can show how public opinion shifts in response to major events or policy changes. Tools and software for Corpus Linguistics. Several software tools are commonly used in Corpus Linguistics to facilitate the analysis of large text corpora. These include AntConc, a freeware corpus analysis toolkit that provides functionalities for concordance, collocation, and keyword analysis. Sketch Engine, a comprehensive tool for building and analyzing text corpora, offering advanced features for linguistic analysis. Wordsmith Tools, a software suite for corpus linguistics that includes tools for word frequency, concordance, and keyword analysis. InVivo. Although primarily qualitative analysis software, InVivo also supports text analysis and can handle large text corpora for thematic and content analysis. Corpus Linguistics offers a robust and systematic methodology for analyzing global narratives, providing insights into how language constructs and reflects global issues, ideologies, and power dynamics. By leveraging frequency, collocation, concordance, and keyword analysis, researchers can uncover patterns and trends in large text corpora, enhancing our understanding of global discourse. This approach not only illuminates the dominant narratives in media, politics, policy, and social media but also reveals the underlying structures and shifts in global communication. 3. Narrative analysis of transnational discourses. Narrative analysis is a key methodology in global studies for examining transnational discourses. This approach focuses on understanding how stories and narratives shape, and are shaped by, global phenomena. By analyzing narratives, scholars can uncover the ways in which individuals, groups, and institutions construct and communicate their identities, values, and experiences across borders. Understanding narrative analysis. Narrative analysis involves the study of stories, how they are structured, the content they convey, and the contexts in which they are told. This methodology is particularly useful in global studies as it helps to unravel the complex, multi-layered narratives that operate in transnational contexts. Key elements of narrative analysis. Structure. Analyzing the organization of narratives, including their plot, characters, and setting, to understand how they convey meaning. Content. Examining the themes, symbols, and messages within narratives to identify the underlying ideologies and values. Context. Considering the socio-political, cultural, and historical contexts in which narratives are produced and consumed. Function. Understanding the purpose of narratives, including how they are used to persuade, inform, legitimize, or resist. Applying narrative analysis to transnational discourses. Transnational discourses are those that cross national boundaries, influencing and being influenced by multiple cultures and contexts. Narrative analysis can be applied to various forms of transnational communication, including media, political rhetoric, personal testimonies, and cultural productions. Media narratives. Media plays a crucial role in shaping transnational discourses by constructing and disseminating stories about global events and issues. Global news coverage. Analyzing how global news outlets narrate international events, such as wars, migrations, and pandemics, can reveal the framing and biases in these stories. For example, narratives around the Syrian refugee crisis often differ significantly between Western and Middle Eastern media. Documentaries and films. Examining documentaries and films that address global issues can provide insights into how these media forms construct narratives about transnational phenomena. For instance, films about climate change often use personal stories to highlight the global impact of environmental degradation. Political narratives. Political leaders and institutions use narratives to frame their policies and actions in ways that resonate across borders. Speeches and statements. Analyzing political speeches can uncover how leaders construct narratives about their country's role in the world. For example, examining the narratives used in speeches at the United Nations can reveal how countries position themselves on issues like human rights, security, and development. Policy documents. Policy narratives can be analyzed to understand how transnational issues are framed and addressed. For instance, narratives around trade agreements or international aid often reflect broader ideological positions about globalization and economic policy. Personal and cultural narratives. Personal stories and cultural productions offer rich material for understanding transnational discourses. Testimonies and memoirs. Personal testimonies and memoirs of migrants, refugees, and diaspora communities provide valuable insights into individual experiences of transnational movement and identity. Analyzing these narratives can highlight the human impact of global policies and events. Literature and art. Literary and artistic works often engage with transnational themes, reflecting and shaping global discourses. For example, post-colonial literature frequently addresses themes of identity, displacement, and resistance, offering alternative narratives to dominant global stories. Case studies in narrative analysis. Case study. Narratives of migration media coverage. Analyzing media narratives around migration can reveal how migrants are portrayed in different contexts. For example, comparing narratives in European versus African media can show how stories of migration are framed in terms of opportunity, threat, or humanitarian crisis. Personal testimonies. Examining the personal narratives of migrants themselves can provide a counter-narrative to mainstream media portrayals. These stories often highlight the complexities and challenges of migration, as well as the resilience and agency of migrants. Case study. Climate change narratives documentary films. Analyzing documentaries on climate change can uncover how these films construct narratives about the causes, effects, and solutions to global environmental issues. For instance, films like An Inconvenient Truth use personal stories and scientific data to create a compelling narrative about the urgency of climate action. Policy narratives. Examining the narratives used in international climate agreements can reveal how different countries frame their responsibilities and commitments. For example, analyzing the language of the Paris Agreement can show how narratives of cooperation and equity are constructed to address global climate challenges. Tools and techniques for narrative analysis. Thematic analysis. Identifying and analyzing themes within narratives to uncover underlying patterns and meanings. Structural analysis. examining the structure of narratives, including their plot, characters, and setting, to understand how they convey meaning. Discourse analysis, analyzing the language and rhetoric used in narratives to reveal how they construct and communicate power, identity, and ideology. Comparative analysis, comparing narratives across different contexts or media to identify similarities and differences in how stories are constructed and conveyed. Narrative analysis is a vital methodology for exploring transnational discourses in global studies. By examining the stories told across borders, scholars can uncover the ways in which global issues, identities, and power dynamics are constructed and communicated. This approach not only reveals the dominant narratives that shape our understanding of the world but also highlights the alternative and counter-narratives that challenge and complicate these global stories. Through narrative analysis, we gain a deeper appreciation of the complexities of transnational discourses and the role of storytelling in shaping global realities. 4. Conversation analysis in cross-border dialogues. Conversation analysis, CA, is a robust methodology within global studies for examining the details of spoken interactions, particularly in cross-border dialogues. By focusing on the structure and dynamics of conversations, CA helps uncover how participants from different cultural and linguistic backgrounds navigate communication, negotiate meaning, and manage social relationships. Understanding conversation analysis, CA, conversation analysis is a method for studying the intricate details of everyday interactions. Originating from sociology, CA examines how participants use language in real time to construct social order and meaning. Key features of CA. Sequential analysis. CA focuses on the sequential organization of talk, analyzing how each utterance depends on and influences the preceding and following ones. Turn-taking, examining how speakers manage turns in conversation, including how they start, continue, and end their contributions. Repair mechanisms, analyzing how speakers address and correct misunderstandings, errors, or ambiguities in conversation. Institutional talk, studying how conversations differ in institutional contexts, e.g., legal, medical, educational, compared to everyday interactions. Applying CA to cross-border dialogues. Cross-border dialogues involve interactions between individuals from different cultural, linguistic, and national backgrounds. CA is particularly useful in this context as it can reveal how participants manage linguistic and cultural diversity, and how power dynamics and identities are negotiated in conversation. Cultural and linguistic negotiation. CA can uncover how speakers from different backgrounds navigate linguistic differences and cultural expectations. Code switching. Analyzing instances where speakers switch between languages or dialects to facilitate understanding or express identity. Politeness strategies. Examining how participants use politeness strategies, such as indirectness or honorifics, to manage social relationships and show respect across cultural boundaries. Intercultural misunderstandings. Identifying how misunderstandings arise due to cultural differences and how participants repair these misunderstandings to maintain communication. Power dynamics and identity. CA can reveal how power relations and identities are constructed and negotiated in cross-border dialogues. Asymmetrical talk. Analyzing interactions where there are imbalances in power or expertise, such as between a native and non-native speaker, or between representatives of different countries in diplomatic negotiations. Identity construction. Examining how speakers construct and display their cultural, national, or professional identities through conversation. Negotiation and persuasion. Investigating how participants use conversational techniques to persuade, negotiate, and reach agreements, reflecting broader power dynamics and cultural norms. Case studies in CA case study. Diplomatic negotiations, turn-taking and politeness. In diplomatic conversations, turn-taking and politeness are crucial. CA can analyze how diplomats manage interruptions, turn-taking, and the use of formal language to navigate power dynamics and show respect. Repair mechanisms. Examining how diplomats handle misunderstandings or disagreements can provide insights into the strategies used to maintain diplomatic decorum and achieve mutual understanding. Case study. Multinational business meetings, language choice and code switching. CA can analyze how participants choose languages strategically, switch codes, and use translation to facilitate communication in multinational business settings. Negotiation techniques. Examining how business professionals use negotiation techniques, such as framing offers or making concessions, can reveal the interplay of cultural norms and business practices. Tools and techniques for CA. Transcription. Creating detailed transcripts of conversations, noting pauses, intonation, and nonverbal cues to capture the full interactional context. Sequential analysis. Analyzing the order and structure of turns to understand how conversations develop and how meaning is co-constructed. Contextual analysis. Considering the broader social, cultural, and institutional contexts in which conversations occur to understand their impact on interaction. Ethnographic methods. Combining CA with ethnographic methods to gain deeper insights into the participants' backgrounds, intentions, and interpretations. Conversation analysis. CA provides a detailed and nuanced approach to studying cross-border dialogues in global studies. By focusing on the micro-level details of interactions, CA uncovers how participants from different cultural and linguistic backgrounds manage communication, negotiate meaning, and construct social relationships. This methodology highlights the complexities of intercultural communication and the subtle ways in which power dynamics and identities are navigated in conversation. Through CA, scholars can gain valuable insights into the processes that underpin effective and meaningful cross-border dialogues, contributing to a deeper understanding of global communication and cooperation. 5. Ethnography of Communication for Global Discourse Communities. The Ethnography of Communication, EOC, is a vital methodology in global studies for analyzing global discourse communities. It provides a comprehensive approach to understanding how communication practices are embedded within cultural contexts. This methodology focuses on the ways in which language and communication practices shape and are shaped by the cultural norms, values, and social structures of different communities around the world. Understanding the ethnography of communication. The ethnography of communication, developed by Del Hymes, integrates linguistic and anthropological approaches to study how people use language in their everyday lives. It examines communication within its cultural context, considering not just the linguistic elements but also the social rules and norms that govern interaction. Key components of EOC. Communicative competence. Understanding not just the grammatical aspects of language but also the social rules and norms for using language appropriately in different contexts. Speech community. A group of people who share common norms, expectations, and rules for communication. Speech events. Specific instances of communication that are bounded in time and place, such as conversations, meetings, or rituals. Speech acts. Individual acts of communication within a speech event, such as asking a question, making a statement, or giving a command. Genres. Types of communicative events that have particular forms and functions, such as storytelling, debates, or prayers. Applying EOC to global discourse communities. Global discourse communities are groups that engage in communication across national and cultural boundaries. These communities can include international organizations, transnational advocacy networks, global social movements, and multinational corporations. Applying EOC to these communities involves understanding how their communication practices reflect and shape their cultural and social identities. Cultural norms and values. EOC helps uncover the cultural norms and values that underpin communication practices in global discourse communities. Norms of interaction. Different cultures have different norms for interaction, such as levels of formality, directness, or the use of silence. EOC examines how these norms influence communication within global discourse communities. Values and beliefs. Communication practices often reflect deeper cultural values and beliefs. For example, the emphasis on consensus in Japanese business meetings reflects cultural values of harmony and group cohesion. Language and identity. EOC explores how language use in global discourse communities contributes to the construction of social identities. Multilingualism. Many global discourse communities are multilingual, and language choice can signal identity, solidarity, or power. EOC examines how members navigate multiple languages and what this reveals about their identities. Code switching. Switching between languages or dialects within a conversation can indicate shifts in identity or social roles. EOC analyzes these practices to understand how members of global discourse communities manage their multiple identities. Communication practices. EOC investigates the specific communication practices that characterize global discourse communities. Rituals and ceremonies. Many global discourse communities have rituals or ceremonies that reinforce their cultural norms and values. For example, international organizations may have formal protocols for meetings and decision-making processes. Narratives and storytelling. Storytelling can be a powerful way to convey values, share knowledge, and build community. EOC examines how narratives are used within global discourse communities to construct and communicate their shared identities and goals. Case studies in EOC. Case study. United Nations, UN, speech events. EOC can analyze the speech events within the UN, such as General Assembly debates, Security Council meetings, and informal consultations. These events are governed by specific protocols and norms that reflect the UN's values of diplomacy and multilateralism. Genres. Different genres of communication, such as formal speeches, resolutions, and diplomatic negotiations, can be studied to understand how they contribute to the UN's functioning and identity. Case study. Transnational advocacy networks' norms of interaction. EOC can examine how activists from different cultural backgrounds negotiate norms of interaction in transnational advocacy networks. For example, norms of direct action and confrontation in Western activism may differ from more dialogic approaches in other cultures. Narratives. Analyzing the narratives used by transnational advocacy networks can reveal how they construct a shared identity and mobilize support across borders. These narratives often emphasize common values, such as human rights or environmental sustainability. Tools and techniques for EOC. Participant observation. Immersing oneself in the community to observe and participate in their communication practices. This technique provides rich, contextual insights into how communication functions within the community. Interviews. Conducting interviews with members of the discourse community to gather their perspectives on communication practices and cultural norms. This can help uncover the meanings and values they attach to different forms of communication. Discourse analysis. Analyzing texts and spoken interactions to understand the structure and content of communication within the community. This can include examining transcripts of meetings, written documents, and recordings of conversations. Ethnographic field notes. Keeping detailed field notes on observations and interactions. These notes provide a record of the communication practices and social context, which can be analyzed to identify patterns and themes. The Ethnography of Communication, EOC, is a valuable methodology for studying global discourse communities. By examining communication practices within their cultural context, EOC provides insights into how global discourse communities construct and negotiate their identities, values, and social norms. This approach highlights the diversity of communication practices across different cultures and the ways in which these practices shape and reflect the broader social and cultural dynamics of global discourse. Through EOC, researchers can gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of global communication and the interplay between language, culture, and society in transnational contexts. Conclusion. The methodologies of critical discourse analysis, corpus linguistics, narrative analysis, conversation analysis, and the ethnography of communication offer diverse and powerful tools for examining global discourses. By uncovering the underlying structures, patterns, and dynamics of language use in various contexts, these approaches enhance our understanding of global narratives, power relations, and cultural identities. Together, they contribute to a comprehensive and nuanced analysis of how discourse shapes and is shaped by the globalized world, fostering critical awareness and promoting more inclusive and equitable global communication. Frequently asked questions. What is critical discourse analysis, CDA? In the global context, critical discourse analysis, CDA, in the global context examines how discourse shapes and is shaped by power relations on an international scale. It uncovers how language perpetuates or challenges global power structures, ideologies, and inequalities. For example, CDA can reveal how political speeches or media portrayals reinforce dominant narratives and marginalize alternative perspectives in global governance and international relations. How is corpus linguistics used to analyze global narratives? Corpus linguistics involves the study of large collections of texts, corpora, to identify patterns and frequencies in language use. In global studies, it is used to analyze global narratives by examining how specific terms, phrases, and discourse structures are employed across different texts and contexts. This methodology helps uncover prevalent themes, ideologies, and biases in global communication. What does narrative analysis of transnational discourses entail? Narrative analysis of transnational discourses focuses on the stories and narratives that transcend national boundaries. It examines how these narratives are constructed, disseminated, and received across different cultural and political contexts. This approach helps understand the role of storytelling in shaping transnational identities, movements, and global issues. How is conversation analysis applied to cross-border dialogues? Conversation analysis examines the structure and patterns of interaction in spoken communication. In cross-border dialogues, it analyzes how individuals from different cultural and linguistic backgrounds navigate communication, negotiate meaning, and manage misunderstandings. This methodology provides insights into the dynamics of intercultural communication and the role of conversational practices in global interactions. What is the ethnography of communication in the context of global discourse communities? The ethnography of communication studies how language is used in specific cultural and social contexts. In global discourse communities, it involves observing and analyzing communication practices within transnational groups, such as international organizations, social movements, or online communities. This approach helps understand how these communities construct and maintain their shared identities, norms, and values through language. What are the key features of critical discourse analysis, CDA, in global studies? Key features of CDA in global studies include its focus on power relations, ideologies, and social inequalities. It analyzes how discourse serves the interests of dominant groups, how it constructs social realities, and how it can be used to resist and challenge power structures. CDA in global studies often examines political speeches, media representations, policy documents, and other texts that shape global discourse. How does corpus linguistics help in identifying global discourse patterns? Corpus linguistics helps identify global discourse patterns by providing quantitative data on language use across large datasets. It reveals how certain terms and phrases are consistently used in global contexts, highlighting dominant themes and ideologies. This methodology also allows for the comparison of discourse across different languages and cultural contexts, offering a comprehensive view of global communication trends. Why is narrative analysis important for understanding transnational discourses? Narrative analysis is important for understanding transnational discourses because it explores how stories shape our understanding of global issues and identities. By analyzing narratives, researchers can uncover the underlying values, beliefs, and power dynamics that influence transnational communication. This approach highlights the role of storytelling in creating shared meanings and mobilizing collective action across borders. What insights can conversation analysis provide in intercultural communication? Conversation analysis provides insights into how people from different cultural backgrounds manage communication in real time. It reveals the strategies used to negotiate meaning, address misunderstandings, and build rapport. This methodology helps identify the challenges and opportunities in intercultural dialogue, contributing to better understanding and cooperation in global contexts. How does the ethnography of communication enhance our understanding of global discourse communities? The ethnography of communication enhances our understanding of global discourse communities by offering a detailed, context-specific analysis of how language is used within these groups. It provides insights into the norms, values, and practices that define these communities, highlighting the role of language in constructing and sustaining transnational identities and networks. This approach also sheds light on how global discourse communities navigate cultural diversity and negotiate shared meanings. What are some examples of how CDA has been applied in global studies? Examples of CDA in global studies include analyzing the language used in United Nations speeches to understand how global governance is framed, examining media coverage of international conflicts to reveal biases and ideological stances, and studying policy documents from global institutions like the IMF to uncover how economic ideologies are promoted and contested. How can corpus linguistics reveal biases in global narratives? Corpus linguistics can reveal biases in global narratives by identifying patterns in language use that reflect underlying prejudices or ideological stances. For instance, it can show how certain countries are consistently described in negative terms or how specific issues are framed in ways that support particular political agendas. This quantitative approach helps uncover subtle biases that might not be immediately apparent in individual texts. What role do personal stories play in narrative analysis of transnational discourses? Personal stories play a crucial role in narrative analysis of transnational discourses by providing individual perspectives that reflect broader social and cultural themes. These stories help humanize global issues, highlight the experiences of marginalized groups, and offer alternative viewpoints that challenge dominant narratives. Analyzing personal stories can reveal the diverse ways in which people navigate and interpret transnational realities. How does conversation analysis address power dynamics in cross-border dialogues? Conversation analysis addresses power dynamics in cross-border dialogues by examining how authority, dominance, and resistance are enacted and negotiated in interaction. It looks at turn-taking, interruptions, topic control, and other conversational features to understand how participants manage power relations. This approach helps reveal the subtle ways in which power is exercised and contested in intercultural communication. What are some challenges in conducting ethnography of communication in global discourse communities? Challenges in conducting ethnography of communication in global discourse communities include gaining access to diverse and often dispersed groups, navigating language barriers, and understanding the cultural nuances of communication practices. Additionally, researchers must be mindful of their own biases and the ethical considerations involved in studying and representing these communities. Despite these challenges, this approach provides valuable insights into the complexities of global communication.